We are in the studio with our special guest, Richard Colman, who is a Paralympic world champion track athlete. He's also a motivational speaker, ambassador and blogger and world traveller. How's it going, Richard?
I'm very grateful for an invitation to speak to you guys today, and it's great to be on your show. This is an amazing opportunity, and I love what you guys are doing.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on our show. Do you have
Yeah, it's great to have you. Can you please tell us what's it like being involved and being in a wheelchair sport and being a track athlete?
I'm actually very lucky and very honoured that I'm actually an athlete here in Australia, and I'm based out of Geelong, so I feel very lucky that I was born with my disability, because I have had so many opportunities that I wouldn't have experienced if I wasn't born with my disability, spina bifida, and so I'm very lucky that I'm an athlete, and we've got one of the best support structures here in Australia for athletes and athletes with a disability. So we've got great support. I'm part of the Victorian Institute of Sport, and I've got a great support network around in Geelong and here in Melbourne, so it's really worthwhile.
That's good.
That's awesome. So did you find it easy coming from Geelong today into the studio?
I've actually been up in Melbourne all day, so I had training this morning at 6 a.m. and then I came up to Melbourne, and I've been coaching at the athletics track over at Lakeside Stadium. It's the Athletics Victoria Age State Championships this weekend for able-bodies and for para-athletes. So there's ambulant and wheelchair guys competing there. I'm the Victorian para coach, so been looking after all these juniors and making sure they're all under control, so no problems yet. So I've been able to sneak out for a couple of hours while the middle of the day while there's some hurdle events and some other stuff. So going back there after this.
That's awesome.
How's it all going so far? So good.
Yeah, we've got some great juniors coming through the ranks at the moment here in Victoria, and we've got Isis Holt, who's a cerebral palsy athlete who's breaking world records at 15, and she's a superstar, and you'll be hearing her name a lot in the next few years. But there's a lot of others around, and boys and girls in track and field, so we've got a good team.
Awesome.
Good, very good.
So, can you tell me, is there like categories because you've been to the Paralympics, and I always get confused when you're watching like track and stuff, there's always different categories. Can you explain those categories for me?
Athletics is one of the easiest sports to understand with classification. We're all broken up into different disabilities. Swimming and other sports are classified a little bit different to athletics. So athletics, the blind compete against the blind, amputees compete against amputees, cerebral palsy compete against cerebral palsy, and then wheelchair compete against wheelchair. So it makes it fair. You get graded on muscle function, what actually works. So if you're missing a limb below the knee, above the knee, you compete against everyone with the same level of function, which makes it fair on the level playing field. Yeah. So and then we all got to complete clean and fair and do all these other things off the field. So it's a big work.
So does that mean, and tell me if I'm getting a bit too personal here, but does that mean that you only, being a wheelchair athlete, can only compete against people with spina bifida because that's the type of disability you have? Actually,
no. In Paralympics, it doesn't really go like that. It's anyone in a wheelchair who competes in a wheelchair. It's amputees who can go in a wheelchair. Incomplete spinal cord injuries, full spinal cord injuries. There's now a lot of spinal viruses. So there's a lot of spinal viruses that are coming through the ranks now who have strange disabilities that you wouldn't have heard of 20 years ago who are now racing. So it's not just spina bifida. Spina bifida is actually a very small number of athletes competing in the wheelchair classes because there's such a variety of wheelchair users now. So it's a big use, and I'm very lucky to be involved.
Awesome. So can you tell us a bit about travelling? Because I know that you've done a lot of travelling in your time. What are some of the challenges you faced while travelling?
Wow, where do I start? I've been very lucky now. I've been being able to travel here in Australia and around the world now. Being an athlete for 20 years, I've been able to travel all around Australia and overseas I've been travelling overseas to Europe since 2002. So it's been every year overseas somewhere multiple times, and the last few years I've been travelling a lot more because I feel it's in my career soon, so making the most of the time I have around the world. And in the past I used to just go to the race, do the race, go to the next run. Now I'm making sure I see the city I'm in, make sure I have a day off, go do touristy stuff, and then even after the series I'll go and have a holiday afterwards. So it's interesting. I'm getting to know a lot of languages.
Yeah.
And when they
that's
say
awesome.
no wheelchair, I get to understand that very quickly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to break down those barriers because I don't think they should stop you from getting into places.
Yeah.
Varying countries have varying issues. I believe the best countries are the developing countries to travel to in a wheelchair. The worst are the developed ones. The G8, the America, France, Italy, Germany, England.
Yeah.
The countries that are meant to be the best are the
not,
worst
yeah.
for disabled travel. And I travel a lot by myself, so if you get stuck, you really do get stuck somewhere. So unfortunately, I've been stuck in a few locations, but I've learned to climb stairs and go downstairs, and that's the most important skill of travelling in the world these days. So I've had a great time. Last year's off season was to the Caribbean, and I had a great time in Jamaica, and then we went to Cuba. So Cuba was actually not really wheelchair friendly, but the people were. So I got around and did some amazing things in Cuba, which I never thought was possible.
Yeah, it's always really good when you are around people that are willing to help out. 'Cause, I have a friend who's in an electric wheelchair, and he went to Thailand, and he had no trouble, even though it was, very inaccessible. Everyone just picked him up and carried him because they were just big, strong men in Thailand.
And that's what we happened. We went out to have a beer one night over in, I went out for dinner, and I went to Jamaica, and all these 4 Jamaican guys lifted me up and took me down 400 steps. And I just went, wow. And then there were other people coming in trying to get help as well. So we had enough people to help me down for dinner. So I was very lucky that I got help there. But I also have taxis in the middle of Bolivia would go across 4 lanes of traffic and stop for me. And I'm a gringo.
Get that back at home in Melbourne.
You don't get any taxis here in Australia, let alone they know where they're going. But over there they stopped, and in England they have to stop by law.
Yeah.
So no matter where they are, if they're free, you put your hand out, they have to stop for disability. And I've seen it once when they didn't, and the cops went after them, and they can lose their license. So it's a great thing to see that.
When I went to England, I was just shocked to see that all the taxis were wheelchair accessible. Like even the small little box ones.
Yeah, the black house, everyone's accessible. I don't use the ramp because they pull so close to the curb that you can roll straight on from the curb into the lowered back seat kind of area, and it's all wheelchair accessible. And if there's a gap, there's 2 handrails, and I just pull myself up the gap and into the cab. So they're all very well trained, and they know how to do it. And if they see someone, they come close. So I love travelling London.
I remember when I went to London when I was little, would have been about maybe 10. No, older than that. And it was before the cabs became wheelchair accessible, and just my mum and dad trying to get me in and out of the car, and we actually said it'd be so much easier if all the cabs were wheelchair accessible. And it's like, if they can do it in London, why can't they do it here?
Yeah, exactly.
The training over there is so much better. That you tell them a certain restaurant on a certain suburb, and they'll go to that restaurant without even having any issues. And they won't charge you extra. They won't charge you for the wheelchair. They won't charge you for all these extra bits they charge you around the world. So I have no problems with London transport. Other than a few tube stations are still not really wheelchair friendly. But we're getting there. The buses, on the other hand, all wheelchair friendly, but you're only allowed 1 wheelchair on the bus at all times. So if there's 2 of you, you're not technically allowed on the bus at the same time. So we have a few issues there developing that problem there. But they're working on it. They've got in Tanny Gray at Thompson. She's a great athlete over there who's now retired and is in Parliament, and she's doing some great work with disability over there.
Well, thank you for chatting. If you want to stick around and have a bit more of a chat after this song, that'd be fantastic.
Brilliant.
This song is Slowly Slowly, and it's called New York, Paris. So you're on Razor Platform on SIN 90.7, and we are joined in the studio with Richard Colman. How's it going?
I'm very well. How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
So before the song, we were talking about travelling, and talking about travelling, I was wondering how you're going with getting to Rio for is it this year, for the Paralympics for this year?
It is actually. 2016 is the Rio Paralympics. It's we call it the main event. The Olympics, those other things that happen in August, is the test event. The Paralympics is the main event happening later in the year in early September, and for the very first time, Channel 7 will be broadcasting the Paralympics on live TV here in Australia. So we're going to have a great coverage, and it's going to be across all of their 3 channels, so it's going to be great.
It was always like I know when Adam Hills was hosting, it was on Channel 2 and it wasn't
ABC, the last
7,
ones.
and then you had to, tune in at a different time. It was never live, and it's like...
There's been a few hours live in London. It was a lot better in the last few years. They built up. London, it was because the time zone is quite a few hours difference in that time of the year, so it has a late night. So Rio will be 12 hours or 14 hours difference as well. So we'll hopefully have a lot of finals over in Rio. Will be morning here, so we'll get some good coverage and hopefully we'll do well. I've just still got to qualify, so technicalities, I'm aiming to be there, but it's not as easy as it used to be, and my standards have gone through the roof, and it's not as easy to qualify, and I'm hoping to do it, but the last few weeks while I've been racing, this is my first week back this year in Geelong, so I've been away since New Year's Eve, and it's been a long year travelling, and I've been in training camps up in Falls Creek. We went to races in Canberra, Sydney, Newcastle, back to Canberra, and I've done a lot of mileage, but... trying to chase the times, trying to chase the results, but unfortunately the results haven't gone my way this year.
As you get older, it becomes harder to do as well. So you're like...
Yeah, the body's not liking me as much as it used to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that also play a part to what's happening. So I'm trying to push through it, and I still believe I've got a lot to give. I've still got a few results I haven't achieved yet. I want to win... a few different races around the world. I'm now stepping up to the marathon, so I want to do London Marathon and really do well there in the future.
Do you think, based on whether you get in, clearly, based on whether you qualify, do you think this will be your last Paralympic Games?
It could be. A lot of people are telling me this is, what am I doing? What retirement? What's happening? I have a university degree, so I can go back to being a good old accountant, which is a possibility because it earns a lot more money than what I do as an athlete. We are funded well, but it's not anywhere near a wage really at all. So I do a lot off my own back, so that's why I do a lot of travelling to races where I can earn a bit of prize money. We do a lot of sponsorship. I'm creating my own brand. I'm coaching. I'm doing all these other things to help to be able to fund and be able to do what I do. So trying to hopefully race one day and do good stuff, but we'll see.
Yeah. Do you play any other sports?
I'm technically not really allowed to with my contracts because in an elite contract you're not allowed to get injured. If you're doing something silly and stuff like that. In the past, during one off season 2 years ago, I went to skiing up at Falls Creek. That was great. I hadn't done it for about 10 years, so it was great. And I didn't get injured, which is the number one thing.
Yeah, that's good.
Knowing my luck, I would probably do something silly and fall off the mountain. I did crash a couple of times and didn't end up in the trees once, but minor details there. All safe.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Alive.
I do play basketball in Geelong, wheelchair basketball in Geelong. We've got one of the biggest leagues in Australia. We have able-bodied people playing in a disability sport, so that is inclusion in Paralympic sport rather than inclusion in an able-bodied sport or disability. So we're really pushing that, and Geelong is in the leader of Paralympic sport. We have every sport available in Geelong, and we've got a lot of recreational activities as well. So anyone who wants to do sport in Geelong has opportunities. So we don't miss out on anything, and everyone has an opportunity to race.
Awesome. Going back to qualifying for Rio, how does one qualify? Like, what's the process of getting into the Paralympics?
It's a 20-year process for me at the moment. I've been racing for 20 years. There is a lot of races you got to do. So you've got to qualify. Athletics Australia sets our qualifying times, and you got to match or beat that. And my 400 metre time that I have to do to qualify for Rio would have won a medal at the World Championships in October last year. So it's top 3 basically in the world to get an automatic standard. So Australia will probably send about 40 athletes in athletics to Rio, and hopefully I'll be in that 40. If not, anyone got a job, I will be having a lot of spare time from as of June. There'll be a lot of spare time, or I might be travelling a lot more. So we'll see what happens, but we're trying to push it and trying to create all these other opportunities outside of sport now.
Cool. Okay. So, you do motivational speaking. What kind of things do you speak about? And where do you go? Do you go to schools or...?
Yeah, this is a big part of who we are now, and I realised I never did public speaking or any type of speaking in front of crowds as a student at school. I never did debating, I never did assemblies, I never did any of those class announcement stuff, and my school still knows my year as that bad year, and we're famous for that. and that's probably part of the why. But after I won Athens in the 800 Paralympics 2004, I realised that to get some coverage, to be a bit more well known, you have to be able to do the whole thing, not just be an athlete. You've got to do everything else, and that was part of being doing motivational speaking. So I've done a lot of courses now to be able to speak to schools, and one of my favourite things is speaking to primary school kids and secondary school kids, which is kind of interesting sometimes. And the questions they ask, particularly often you get is, do you sleep in your wheelchair, or do you go swimming in your wheelchair, and a few other ones. But it's great to be able to increase awareness of disability. That's why I'm doing it, and to show that, hang on, I'm just like anyone else. I've got I can drive, I've got a degree, I've got all these things that normal people do, and most of my friends. So it's coming along. I love talking to school children, and you see them come 10 years later or something like that now, and they remember you and they follow you. So it's one way of increasing your followers, which is what I'm trying to do, and hopefully turn that into a financially beneficial sport, because we don't earn enough anything out of sport. As we know, in disability, it's not the highest paying anything. So I'm getting there, but sport is a great thing. I talk about my life, what I've done, where I've gone, and a few different jokes and stories, funny stories, and then just trying to raise awareness of disability and attitudes towards disability, and how we're not an inspiration for going to the shops. And I don't want people to open the door to the gym for me when they're 70. I want to open the door for them because
you can,
and that's it. I don't want someone to come over, walk across the road and trying to help me put my chair in the car, because they like...
Yeah, I had someone the other day telling me, like, yelled out, "You're an inspiration, love," when I was putting my wheelchair in the car, and I was like, what?
Yes, and I don't believe that's one of the things the Australian public now has to really change their attitudes to disability, because we're not inspiration for going to the shops.
Yeah.
Everyone does that.